Simon O'Connor.
Oh, this will be good.
I actually feel bad for Kevin Haig all of a sudden now, but anyway.
Not that bad.
Hey, look, very pleased to take what will be, I think, a relatively short call, but I might be found to be wrong on that. Look, there's a couple of things I just want to draw the House's attention to as we take this committee stage on the New Zealand Public Health and Disability Southern DHB Elections Bill. The first point, and I raised it in the second debate, this is a very narrow bill. Its scope is incredibly narrow. Its singular purpose is to stop the elections this year for the Southern DHB for the very proper and right reason that the Commissioner needs to continue her work, we believe, and I think when we were listening to the likes of Todd Barclay, an MP from down there actually, for the good of the community through to 2019. Why I want to stress that very narrow scope is that a lot of the other stuff that has been raised understandably at one level isn't really all that relevant to this discussion, be it from food to the nature of the hospitals and so forth. It's not the direct element of this bill. Those are consequential aspects, and I think what's really important is all those elements from the state of the hospitals to how the fundings are allocated, physiotherapists and the like. Issues that are raised by members, list or otherwise, down there are actually being addressed by the Commissioner and her team. And that's, I think, and assume that's been an important reason why the Minister put her in there. Look, the issues around Maori representation, I think people have rightly noted that. The committee took the right and proper step to put that into its report. As I say, it's not in the actual bill and amendments because that is out of scope. It's not the bill's purpose in this committee stage or otherwise to dictate how the Commissioner operates. It's more to say, or actually it's primarily, if not singularly, to say there will not be an election. We've certainly encouraged transparency, and we've heard some really good reports of late of how the Commissioner is being more transparent to the public in the Southland DHB. But again, this doesn't fit the bill as something to be amended or changed. Look, I do want to draw a couple of thoughts to the SOPs that have been put down. Both of them I don't think we should support, primarily for the purposes the simplicity of this bill is not served well by these SOPs. I can understand the intentions of them, but both actually complicate. They also touch into that whole dynamic that somehow democracy is best served by being democratic alone. I've touched on this before. Democracy is served because it brings about a particular purpose. Look, I could, but it get incredibly complicated for the member, so I'm going to try and keep it simple. The whole point of democracy is not simply to vote for the sake of voting, it's to bring about good governance. And while I understand the good intentions of Ria Bond, and can I commend her for her work on the Select Committee, actually asking the Minister to appoint normally elected people really is just, I think, an overly complicated way of actually doing what the Commissioner already does. So I don't think that's overly helpful. And look, as an Auckland MP, I can't speak to those in the Southern DHB, but I suspect, Mr Speaker, they wouldn't see any difference. If the Minister was simply to just appoint all members of the board and say everything is tickety-boo, to use the technical term, I don't think they'd quite believe in that. I took a bit more time looking at the Honourable Annette King's very recently tabled SOP. Look, I can understand the intention of wanting to get the DHB board back in place as quickly as possible. The analogy I think of is actually Selwyn College around an education commissioner in my electorate. But again, I think in dynamics like this, communities are best served by a simple mechanism, in this case, the board being taken out and a commissioner put in, but a dynamic which is quickly and easily understood. And so in this case, saying that a minister may be able to reappoint at some time a board by order in council, I think actually just complicates matter. I think it's simpler to say it's going to go through to 2019. I'd be interested to hear from the Minister and the Chair, which I just have to note is actually not my future brother-in-law, Simon Bridges. I do believe it's Jonathan Coleman. Oh, it's Todd Barclay. Oh, right. Well, that's jolly good. I was getting all very confused about who and who wasn't in the House. But look, I wouldn't mind hearing from the Minister in the Chair whether there's, well, sort of the legal ramifications of this postponement. Is it actually possible legally speaking, for these appointments to be made? Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Simon O'Connor.
Oh, look, that's great. Now I'm warming up. I'm right into things. I'd be interested to hear from the Minister whether or not actually there's an opportunity, legally or otherwise, for these appointments to be made. My sense is that it's probably not possible. So I'd like to hear on that. But look, the points made by most colleagues are quite right. This is a good bill. That is the reason that the Select Committee returned it to this House without amendment. I do note now that some members are not supporting the bill at this stage, but I do still want to acknowledge the work that they brought and the important voice that they brought to this, particularly in the area of Maori representation and transparency. I do thank the Labour Party for its support in particular of this. I think it's important that we do our best to serve these local communities. So again, it's a simple bill. There are no amendments through the Select Committee because we understand that its primary singular purpose is to push out that date to 2019. I think that's what keeps it simple. It keeps it, if you will, an elegant bill and a solution, and I look forward to the continuing excellent work of the Commissioner and her team there. I thank them for all that they're doing, and if I might, to the patience of the public down there, but I think they should know that through the work of the Minister, the Commissioner and others, that the community is in good hands with this little piece of legislation.
Kevin Haig.